I have here a bunch of language tests or language exams. TOEFL IBT, Réussir le DAF, this is for French, El Cronómetro C1, El Cronómetro C2, and I also have IELTS and COB, which is a German test for C2. I've taken all of these exams. Hi, my name is Luca from Lampariello.com, and today we're going to talk about how to use language exams to improve your foreign languages. When I say the word language exam, or exam for that matter, or test, did a shiver run down your spine? Well, it did on mine. The reason why is because I, as much as you probably did, have built a number of negative associations with the event of exams or tests. I did a number of them at high school, at university. This is how society and the education system has learned to assess, gauge our skills in any field. And on the one hand, it's a system that works, but on the other, it entails a number of stress and negative emotions associated with that. In the book, Make It Stick, which you can see here, the authors make the case that if we build a positive association with tests, things get much better. So a number of teachers and educators have actually implemented this system where tests are just used as learning tools. So you don't get marks anymore, you just use tests to fill in your gaps, to discover the students' gaps, and people get much more relaxed. You can use tests not only for chemistry, mathematics, but also for language learning. And this is what we're going to talk about this now. Whatever your level in your target languages, you can take tests at a slightly higher level so that you can put yourself in a situation outside of your comfort zone when you're going to learn a lot. For example, if you have a beginner level, you can take an A2 test to try your hand and test your hand and learn as a consequence of that. Or if you have a B1 level, you can try to strive for a B2. But language exams really make a difference when you reach a B2 level. And let me explain why. A B2 level, of course, we're talking about labels, but it gives you an idea, if we define a skill, is that level where you're able to function within a society, meaning that you started enjoying the language. You can read, you can listen to the radio, you can watch television, you can talk to people. So people normally reach this level and they're very content with that because they say, okay, I've reached this level, I can function in the language, I can use the language, I can enjoy the language. Why should I do all those things that I've done in school? Because if you think about it, this is how we have learned our own native language. We have started learning the language in our own environment with our parents, with our peers, but then we learned how the language formally works. We learned how to speak and how to write in a more formal way, in a more refined way, by going to school. So people who reach a B2 level, normally they tell themselves, that's it. I'm just done what I had to do. I function in the language. I don't want to move forward. This is where language exams really make a difference. Let me explain how this works. If you take a language exam, you're going to do a number of things that you would not normally do once you've reached a B2 level. In my case, I think I've reached a B2 level in Polish, and I function and I spend a lot of time in Poland. I fully and thoroughly enjoy speaking Polish, but I do know that I have gaps. I do know that I still cannot express myself in a refined way, give a 3 to 5 minute speech, write a very well-crafted email, or write an essay, or read and understand the nuances of some more refined text, etc. So if you purchase a language exam and you know the exact date, you have 3 to 6 months, it already gives you a schedule, it gives you a deadline. As a consequence of that, you can plan your own schedule of learning. I've been coaching a lot of students, and I normally tell them that if they give themselves 3 to 6 months, you have a period of general preparation, and then you have a more specific preparation for the exam itself. It's always important to make simulations of the exam and buy some books to prepare specifically for that exam. We'll talk about this in another video. But another great thing that taking a language exam gives you is that it gives you structure. It makes you do things that you would not normally do. So it makes you work in all areas. And this is what you should normally work on in your language learning. It makes you learning on reading, listening, speaking, and writing, because most language tests or most language exams have these 4 versions, have these 4 sections. Plus, it makes you and forces you to work within each section in different activities, which is a fantastic way to push yourself when you don't feel like pushing yourself, because, as I said before, you've already reached a limit or already reached a stage where you're enjoying the language. So what really counts here is not the language exam per se. That's the end of the journey. What really counts is everything that you do before that: preparation, planning, looking forward to doing things, immersing yourself in the language, doing things that you would not do if you hadn't the exam. I've done this in 4 languages: English, German, Spanish, and French, C2, and each and every time I've taken a language test, it's been an exhilarating experience. I've been rehearsing, I've been collaborating with other people, and I highly recommend you take the test for another reason, which I'm going to tell you about in a second. I often see in the comment section that people ask me if I have language certificates with which and through which I can actually prove that I speak these languages. I do not think, honestly, that you need language certificates to prove that you speak a language, because if, for example, I'm speaking English here, well, that should be evidence enough that I can use English to deliver my message. But the world is not just about making YouTube videos. The world is also about finding a job or creating a career and whatnot. And in some countries, having a piece of paper, a certificate, something that is proof that you can actually do something, is great to get a job. You would not hire a pilot or a doctor if they don't show you that they have some kind of piece of paper to prove that they can, drive an airplane or have surgery on you. And in the case of language learning, of course, if you want to speak languages for the sake of communicating, that's one thing. But within certain professional environments like translators or interpreters or other jobs that entail a very good and professional knowledge of the language, you might want to have this, hey, I have English, French, Spanish on your CV. So this comes as a bonus on top of taking language exams and learning through the process of preparation, of preparing the exam and taking the exam. You also have the bonus of having something that you can show and say, hey, look, I speak the language. And mind you, a lot of people put on their CVs the fact that they can speak a language when they cannot speak the language. You want to do 2 things that go with one another, and they're really important. The combination is having a language on your CV, but also actually be able to speak the language. That's a perfect combination for getting a job or, for having a fulfilling life in general. So there you have it. There's a few key points that I wanted to touch upon and stress in this video. The very first point that I wanted to make is that we have built through society, in our life circumstances, a number of negative associations with the word or the concept of being tested or being analyzed by somebody else. It entails judgment, marks, disappointment, and competition. Instead, you want to transform a test or a language exam into a learning tool. Keep in mind that you should have this paradigm shift in place. You want to take a language test because you see it as a learning tool, because you want to learn more, not because you want to get great marks on it. A language exam can and will always help you focus on the things that you need to work on in order to move from one level to the other. But the interesting part is when you have reached a B2 level, which is the level that people consider more or less as fluency, where you function in the language, and take your language skills to the next level. Language exams are a fantastic tool to make that happen. And the third point that I wanted to make is that if you take language tests with the sake of learning, you also get the bonus of having something to show to the world And if you do it correctly, if you really develop these skills that correspond to these levels, you will have something on your CV to show, hey, look, I can actually speak the language, and then actually show that you do speak that language because you really worked on it. And this is great for your professional life and your life in general. I've analyzed just one aspect of language exams. There's so many other things that we can expand on together. And please feel free to drop a bunch of questions you might have about language exams, about whether these exams are useful, which kind of exam do you need for a specific language, how to prepare, how long it takes to prepare, what kind of exercises you want to do. There's a number of things that you can think of, and please ask them, and I will do my best to answer in a Q&A video. As always, I've prepared a lengthy and thorough video about this very same topic that you can read and listen to, so please come over my blog, and if you haven't subscribed to my blog and this YouTube channel, please do it now. Also, the last thing I wanted to say, don't be scared of this stuff. This is very useful. It can change your life. It will make your language skills better. So just embrace it as one of the learning tools you have at your disposal to make your life better and your languages better, for that matter. Happy language learning.